simple free energy for everyone. Okay, so let's imagine that this rotates. We're going to call this the rotor. This is where the bearings will go, right? The bearings are going to hold this shaft. And there's going to be, this will be mounted to something right over here. This is going to spin. So ordinarily with the generator, we're going to have a rotor and a stator. The stator would go on the outside of this. Okay, and it would be a part of some kind of housing. And then the rotor would spin. We would spin the rotor. So let's say that in this case, the magnets can be either on the rotor, and then the copper wires would be on the outside, on this outer part. Or we could have the copper wire on the rotor and the magnets on the outside. Okay, I'm going to skip forward. So this all starts with Michael Faraday's homopolar generator. I'm going to skip forward though to MIT graduate and professor, and also studied at Harvard, Bruce depalma, who made his own version of Michael Faraday's theories and work with the homopolar generator. And what he did essentially was, instead of having a stator and a rotor, he just had a rotor. So now we're going to have just a rotor. And the rotor will have the magnets on it. So let's see, let me draw it this way. I'm going to draw it to be like this. And then we'll have like the magnets can be, we'll just say north, south, north, south, north. Now, I'm kind of combining a lot of different knowledge I'm combining the N machine, I'm combining Adam Trombly's homopolar reactionless generator, and Paramahamsa Tewari also made a reactionless generator. There's a lot of research, patents, everything's available, especially with Paramahamsa Tewari and Bruce depalma. Bruce depalma, everything he ever learned about making generators more efficient, he shared with everyone. Meaning it's all documented, and it's available to be studied. You can go to his website, Bruce depalma. Okay, so let's say we have north, south, all the way around. Okay, all the way around. This is looking directly at it. If we look at it from the side, it would look like this. And the magnets would be around this area right here, all the way around. And it would be like north, south, north, south. Okay, so it's going to go north, south, all the way around. And what that does is it allows us to get a higher voltage, because if we just have all north and we spin it really fast, and we have this is where we spin it from, right? The center part, and this is the entire rotor. This whole thing spins, including this. Everything's spinning. If everything was north, and we spin this magnet, this these magnets, which are all north facing. It could be all north or all south, either one, but it's not going back and forth, right? It's just north. If we spin that, and this is where we're going to get our electricity from, depending on which way we spin it, right? One direction is going to give us positive here and negative out here, and we spin it the other direction, then this will be negative and that'll be positive. That's my understanding. But if you have north, south, all the way around, and we spin this really, really fast, I think we would be then getting an AC, alternating current, which we could use a full wave bridge rectifier, which are like $2.50 approximately last time I checked. I have a lot of them that are like 250 volts at 40 amps. Those are common. But there's many different full wave bridge rectifiers, and I would take one wire to this shaft here, connect it to the full wave bridge rectifier, and there would be a brush touching these magnets here, or it would be maybe there would be some kind of thin metal or a metal here, like aluminum or something, I don't know what it would be, that would make sure we hold those magnets in when we're spinning this. But then when the brush touches this area when we're spinning this in space, or we're just spinning it, when I say there's space I'm going to refer to as the stator, right? Because we're not using traditional generators which have back EMF, right? Back EMF, when you put a load on something, on any generator, when you put a load on it to make it do work, it slows down, it slows the rotor down, it makes it harder to turn. So Adam Trombly, Bruce depalma, Paramahamsa Tewari, and they all reference Michael Faraday, original experiments and original theories, to have no back EMF, which means you put a load on it and it doesn't get harder to spin. It's just as easy to spin. Then you have to spin the rotor without a stator. Okay, so in this case, we would spin this rotor. I'm sharing with you experiments that I'm looking forward to doing. If we spin this really fast, okay, so 6,000 RPMs up to 100,000 RPMs or even more. By the way, I'm going to go back and mention, if the rotor was all north, right, just one pole all the way around, the same pole facing the same direction, right, outward, then the way it works is it's a high current and very low voltage. So for every 1,000 RPMs, we get 1.2 volts, approximately. I think that's from like a 13-inch diameter rotor, approximately. This is referring to Bruce depalma's experiments. Because Bruce depalma, I think he was just using all the same pool all the way around. He had really high current at low voltage. So for every 1,000 RPMs, you get 1.2 volts. So 2,000 RPMs would be 2.4 volts. And you just keep adding 1.2 volts. Every 1,000 RPMs, you increase this, right? So if we had 6,000 RPMs, it would be 6 times 1.2, which I think is like 6.6 volts, right? For 6,000 RPMs. Now what happens if we have north, south, like this? I imagine the current might be lower, right? But the voltage would be significantly higher. So that could be, if I say controlled, using capacitors, right? Putting that into a capacitor of the preferred, like what I would do is I would run that into a capacitor of the voltage that I want to use. And I have to keep an eye on the capacitor to make sure it doesn't overheat, right? And then run that into either a capacitor first, and then into a full wave bridge rectifier, or into a full wave bridge rectifier, and then into a capacitor. These are just different thought experiments. But what is of significance here? Well, everything is of significance. But what I want to communicate is that there is a way to generate, if I say it that way, electricity. What are we really doing? What's the source of electrons, right? What's the source of energy? Where's the energy coming from? And that's an interesting question. I've always thought that was an interesting question. And when I study Tom Bearden, Paramahamsa Tewari, Bruce depalma, and just all the different literature I've studied, it looks like what we can call the vacuum, or we can call it 0 point. Now, if we go on Google, that has never taken me, going a direct Google search has never led me to any kind of, for me, I've never felt like I understood anything that I could use. Like, how can I use this information to do something, right? Unless I start studying people that have actually built machines. When I study Paramahamsa Tewari, Bruce depalma, Thomas Bearden, now I'm hearing things, when I hear vacuum or 0 point or Dirac C or virtual particle flux fields, or Paramahamsa Tewari talks about, how did he say it? He calls them the electrons. He talks about getting energy from electrons and from atoms. And when I think about Tom Bearden and how he explains the virtual particle flux vacuum space, right? These are words he uses, right? So where's the energy come from? It sounds like the energy is, it sounds like we could say it a couple different ways. One is we could say it's coming from the vacuum. We could say it's coming, what is the vacuum? The vacuum is electromagnetic fields, right? That's what it sounds like it is. Virtual particle flux fields of space. So the vacuum is virtual particle flux fields. So virtual particle flux fields are electromagnetic fields, is that correct? These are thought experiments. So the energy is abundantly available, whether you need 1 watt or 1.2 gigawatts, right? To power the DeLorean in the Back to the Future movie, right? But or if you need infinite energy, whatever amount of energy is needed is available. So it's available everywhere in space, just everywhere. That includes the space around the generators, and it includes the space around it includes the space that the generators exist within. The space that is the material generator is mostly empty space, right? It's mostly the virtual particle flux fields of space. The material universe is, we can call it, well, I think Einstein referred to material existence as an extension of those virtual particle flux fields, right? It's an extension of space. So what is primary is the virtual particle flux fields. When you modify those fields, we have our material existence. We have everything that we see and interact with in the universe, right? So the most important thing to eliminating back EMF, right, is removing the stator and just spinning magnets in space. Now, when we do this, it's very important, I'm going to mention this because it's important, that the magnets not fly off of the rotor, right? So it needs to be, if you look at how Bruce depalma made his end machine, he wrapped the magnets, right? Now, what I'm wondering is, can I put the magnets inside like a shell, like something that will contain them, or put some kind of, I don't know, it's just different thoughts, but you can go where your imagination takes you with this. I do know the magnets have to be held by something, right? Because they'll fly out, right? We cannot have that. That's really, really important for safety, especially if we're spinning them at high RPMs. So the 2 points where we extract the energy from is directly from the outer area of rotation of the magnets and the center shaft. That's the 2 points. And what I noticed when I did experiments with spinning a magnet just at low speed is the meter would change polarity when I spun one direction versus the other direction. But I was using, I think the magnet was all one polarity on the outside. I wasn't going north-south like that. Or we can do like 4 north, 4 south, 4 north, 4 south, or north-south, north-south, north-south. I've also seen people put space between where the magnets are. So having like one magnet here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and a space. Now, John Bedini doing something completely different. He puts the magnets 5 inches apart with his battery chargers, And that's a completely different system, but it reminds me of having the magnet spaced out. And he's using all north. But I think he said if it's north-south with his system, because on his you're passing a coil. It's like you could have one coil and lots of magnets, right? But that's a completely different system. It's supposed to be good for battery charging. So I'm not going to go into John Bedini's, what he's doing. He usually uses a bicycle rim and makes it real simple for someone to do their own experiments. That's a different system, though. It's not really made for high RPM. For high spinning, high RPM, I'm looking at this because it looks like it has the potential for a lot of energy to flow through there. And that's what I think we're going to need if we want to be able to extend the range of our electric bicycles, electric cars, anything electric that uses batteries to help contribute to the motion of moving the vehicle, or whatever that may be. Okay, everyone, so we'll see you in the next video. I'll keep sharing my thought process and also what I come up with in terms of experiments. I'm trying to look at my generators I have now, motors and generators that I have, they all have a rotor and a stator, which is a part that spins and a part that remains still. And I'm trying to look at how can I modify one of these. Like, for example, if I have a rotor that has the magnets on it, north-south, north-south, which I know I have that, can I take the copper wire out of the stator so that, or just not even use that copper wire, right? Don't put a load on that, but just spin the magnets and then have my own way of extracting the energy from the rotor part, and then from the outer perimeter, I'll call it, of the spinning magnets. And that way I have a housing around it. And this is already something made and designed to spin fast, right? So what's the top RPM of the motors I have? I think some of them are pretty high. Let's say it can go up to 5,000 or 10,000 RPMs. If I spin that really fast, how much electricity can I extract from that? And where's the energy coming from? My understanding is that energy, well, in these cases, it's coming from the virtual particle flux fields of space, which is virtual particle flux fields, space-time, and apologies, my mind is thinking about so many things right now. I'm trying to focus on this. Virtual particle flux fields, space-time, I can't think of the other word right now. So we have, I'll write it down, virtual particle flux, which is virtual particle VPF, virtual particle flux. We have space-time, which is space and time. So space is pure energy, time is pure energy, virtual particle flux fields is pure energy. These are all the same things. These words are interchangeable, and they're the same thing. They're the same exact thing. So I'll say space, and then I'll put time on a different line, since we usually say space-time together, but I'll just separate it because these are all the same. I'm just saying that. So we have virtual particle flux, space, time, and there's one more, and it's, I'll put it in another video. I'm trying to remember what the word is. Apologies. Everything's different when I'm making a video. It's like in my thoughts, I can see things one way, and then when I'm speaking and sharing and trying to make sense of what I'm thinking about in words and drawings, it's like a different experience. So, but I'm happy to make this video and share with you my latest thoughts, and just to let you know, if you want to experiment with free energy, now anyone that's trying to prove this wrong, here's my thoughts about that. Anyone that says, I'm going to prove that free energy doesn't work, maybe someone can do that for a hobby and they enjoy that, but what I find more interesting is understanding that there's infinite energy at infinite points in space, and we can translate the amount of energy that we need with how strong the magnetic field is, right? How strong of magnets are we using? So the stronger the better. This can be electromagnet, or it can be permanent magnets. Any kind of magnet will work. But if we can create a really, really strong electromagnetic field here, that's alternating, right? That's north, south, north, south, north, south. That would be, I think, ideal. And then to rotate that in this space, this energetic space, right? And the word coherence comes to mind, cohering the energy in space. Oh, and Paramahamsa Tewari did say that And this gentleman he's an electrical engineer and ran a power station in India. He's very knowledgeable, and what I learned about him was he always asked questions. Even in school, he would continuously ask questions from the first day of school to the last day of school, and even when he finished school and went on to run the power station, the power plant. He's always asking questions. He never stopped. So I would say if you're really interested in for example, powering your own home with the systems, or extending the range of your electric vehicle, electric bike, electric unicycle, or whatever it may be, I would say focus 100% of your attention and energy on educating yourself about everything Paramahamsa Tewari shared with the world, which is everything he knew, everything that Thomas Bearden shared with the world, which is everything he knew, everything that Adam Trombly shared with the world, which is a lot of it is in patents and things that he made, which is reactionless generators, right? It's like a rotor with no stator, or the stator is not causing drag, it's not causing back EMF. But I'm showing you simple versions of this. And what else? Well, that should get you started. Okay, we'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone. Have fun with your experiments, and remember the 2 points of where we want to get the energy from is the rotor here. So we want to put a brush on that rotor, or a wire there, or a brush is ideal, and a brush on the outside. So it's those 2 points here and here, and we just spin this in this space, right? Because energy is everywhere. The energy is coming from virtual particle flux fields of space, which is the energy source, if I understand correctly, of the entire material universe. And 1 cubic centimeter, which is a sugar cube, of space, of virtual particle flux fields, has more energy in it than all the material universe combined. Think about that. So this is pure energy, right? The material universe. But there's more energy in a cubic centimeter of space, right? And that includes the space that matter exists within. So the space that this pen exists within, a cubic centimeter of anything that's material, right? There's energy there in that space as well. And there's enough energy there to, I'll say it this way, create an entire universe, material universe, right? And Tom Bearden, to give numbers, because you want to say, well, how many universes can we create in time? And how fast does that energy replenish itself? It replenishes itself at 10 to the 120th cycles per second. That's a 1 with 120 zeros behind it. That's how fast the universe replenishes that energy. And all energy is interconnected throughout everywhere, and throughout all time, and throughout all space. So I spend my life studying this because I'm just interested and curious about things, how things work. I always wanted to know where energy came from. And I'm enjoying this journey of learning. I'm not going to say it's a waste of time to prove that free energy doesn't work. I'll just say if you enjoy that as a hobby, or that's your passion, I think that's fine. If it makes you happy, we have to do what makes us happy. But to me, I enjoy learning how can I use the energy in space, how can I use it, right, to extend the range of something. And if, I was going to say if I can't do it, I'll share that process with you. But there's no doubt in my mind that it can be done because it's already been done before. And Paramahamsa Tewari, Adam Trombly, Thomas Bearden, all these people continuously, independently had their inventions independently verified over and over and over again throughout the life of the inventions, throughout the existence of the inventions. They were just repeatedly shown to work and work again and work again. And I don't know what else to say. I would like to see people doing their experiments with the homopolar generator, as Bruce depalma, Adam Trombly, and Paramahamsa Tewari did. And I'll just keep making videos sharing my thoughts on this. All right, everyone, have a great day. I'm not sure what I'll call this video. I might call it Free Energy for Everyone. Is it free? No, we still have to buy the materials. Is it perpetual motion? No, because the definition of perpetual motion is that something never needs maintenance. And that definition is, I like to modify it, and I refer to it as perpetual motion for everyone, which means it's something that can keep running, but it needs maintenance. So that's modified perpetual motion for everyone. Because defining perpetual motion as something that can never have maintenance, you can't ever touch it, that doesn't make sense to me, because it makes sense to me to have a word that can be used and is functional and can contribute to the betterment of humanity. And lower cost energy, I think, does contribute to the betterment of humanity. So saying, now, are these perpetual motion systems? Some people have built these to where if you're getting more output here than it takes to spin this, right? If a generator, if a motor spins this and it takes 1,000 watts for this motor to spin, a motor over here that's spinning this rotor, right? And they're separate, but they're connected, the shafts are connected. And this is outputting, let's just say, 1,500 watts or 2,000 watts. Can we have a battery being charged? Well, there would be losses there, right? But could we just run it back to the, maybe to a capacitor, and then back, have that run the generator? People have done that. That's not my goal, though. But even if that worked, that would not qualify as perpetual motion, just because if you look at the word perpetual motion, it means that you can't ever change the bearings in anything, and that's not what we're even talking about. I don't know anyone that's ever said, I made something that you never have to maintain. I've never met anyone that, and even the universe, if you just look at the way the universe works, the universe takes care of itself. It's always, energy is always shifting and changing, but it's all interconnected. It relies on all the parts to work. So that's what we're doing here. We're replicating nature. And some people say that we're violating the laws of nature. I don't know. First of all, people are telling us what the laws of nature are, right? When you look at laws of physics and laws of nature, what we're really talking about, from what my research and study has indicate, what we're really talking about is observations, okay? So if no one's looking at something and we go, well, we've never tried it, or someone tried it and they proved that it doesn't work, my understanding is that's not what science is. Science is just documenting your experience, not saying you can't ever do something, because we might be able to change the parameters of the experiment. We might be able to add something different, right? Instead of all north, we go north, south, north, south, north, south, right? Because we need higher voltage. Oh, we need more current. Maybe we need more stronger magnetic fields here, right? If we need more current, more amperage, right? Okay, let's spin it faster. Can we spin at 10,000 RPMs, right? How big does this need to be? Can it be small? How much energy can we get from this if it's small, like 4 inches? How much energy can we get from 13 inches in diameter, right? Which is, you know, this is the diameter, right there, right? So I think that it's really exciting and fun to ask questions, to share the journey. And rather than being focused on proving something doesn't work, which is not science, that's my understanding, science is sharing the experience and the journey of being on a mission to contribute to the betterment of humanity. If the betterment of humanity, in this case, I perceive as being, how can we all add range extenders to our electric bikes, electric unicycles, electric cars, and also lowering the electric bills, which that would help the electric company, right? Because they're always struggling to keep up with demand. What if we can all contribute to that, right? And to mention, I know I keep trying to stop the video, but to mention the electric grid, my understanding of the electric grid is that it's, and you can study Gerard Morin to look into this as well, even though that it's also been mentioned by many, many other experimenters as well. Gerard Morin talked about, and he's not the only one, that how the electrical grid is actually a free energy grid. Like it's like taking that free energy that Tesla discovered, AC, right? All AC is supposed to be free energy signal. That's my understanding. Meaning it has the potential to be extremely efficient, and it is. Gerard Morin and many others have said that if the wires that take the power to our homes, if those wires used what's referred to as under-unity physics, which is the inefficiency that we use, like our circuits that we buy. When we buy a generator and we use a motor as a generator, however we do it right now, when you have a rotor in the stator and there's that drag, those systems are so inefficient the way they're wired, primarily, the circuitry, that if we use that kind of electrical generation in the power grid, our wires would have to be like the power lines would have to be like 4 feet thick. And that can be calculated by calculating the amps and the volts and what gauge wire you need, right? You can figure this out. And so the idea is that we're using free energy generators at all the power stations that send that free energy which is extremely efficient energy, to our homes, and then we pay for that, right? What we don't have right now is we don't have that same efficiency available to us when we buy a generator. Because if we did, we'd be able to extend the rate. It'd be over unity, right? So the idea is that the power grid, all power grids, are over unity, basically, which qualifies as free energy according to everyone that I study. So it's extremely efficient. It's just that when we buy a generator, something that generates electricity for us, we're using under unity. Okay, so we're buying under unity. And to have over unity, we have to have something that doesn't have that drag, right? No drag when we spin it and you put a load on it. Anyway, I'll continue to share my thoughts, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone. This video can go on for hours, but I have things to do. See you next time. Bye.